After going through this topic, you will be able to insert, fetch, update, and delete records from a table using SQL queries. Hello, and welcome back to the next topic of this module. Until now, we have introduced what databases are and we have learned how to create tables and alter them with the help of SQL queries. Now, we will understand how to add data or records in the table we previously created. Keeping the momentum in this video, we will explore the SQL queries that deal with records. That is, we will see how we can fetch, insert, update, and delete any record from a table. And to do this, first we will open the MySQL client. Let's begin now. So first, we'll open the MySQL client. You already know this, right? We have followed these steps a number of times till now. But let me still remind once again. For Windows users, to open MySQL client, you have to first open the XAMPP control panel and start MySQL and Apache services. Then click on the admin button next to MySQL. This will open the phpMyAdmin client on our web browser. Now, click on the SQL tab. If you are a Linux user, to open the MySQL client, enter this command mysql u root p. In the previous topics, remember, we had created a database college. We'll be working on the same database. To select this database, we need to enter a query. You have already studied this in the previous topics. Can you name the SQL query which we will use to select the college database? If your answer is use college, you are right. Also, in the previous topic, inside the college database, we have already created the table students. We will be inserting our records in this table. Let us quickly look at the detailed description of the table to recollect how it looks like. So, let us understand how we can insert a record into a table. To do this, we have insert into command followed by the name of the table. Now, as we know, a table has attributes, that is the columns. So, we must specify the name of the attributes inside which we want to insert the records. So, in our query, after the name of the table students inside the parenthesis, we will specify the attributes like this. Till here, one part of the query is complete. That is, where we want to insert the data. Now, the next part of this query defines the values we want to add. Let us have a look. So, right after this part of the SQL query, we use values followed by the values which we want to insert in the name, registration number, and gender attributes respectively. In our case, the values are Saurav, 123007, and male. This query might seem big and difficult to understand, but believe me, once you understand the logic, it becomes pretty simple. Also, note that the values are added within inverted commas, that is, the name and gender of the student. This is because the data type of the attributes in which these values will be added is varchar. And for attributes in which we specify data type as varchar, except string values, the values are added within inverted commas. Before we move forward, here is a quick question for you. Why have we not put the registration number within an inverted comma? You can pause for a moment and think about the answer. Let us continue and click Go to execute the query. To confirm if the record has been successfully added, we will click on the students table from the left panel. So yes, we can see the record has been added to the table. There is an alternate syntax to insert a record to the table in which we do not need to specify the attribute names. Let us have a look at the syntax first. Here, again, we have used insert into to insert the record followed by the name of the table. Notice that the table name is directly followed by the values which we want to insert. We need to be careful while adding these values as they need to be in the exact order in which the attributes are defined in the table. Now, a few values are added inside inverted commas, and the reason you are already aware as discussed earlier in this video. Click Go, and if we click on the table from the left panel, we can see the record has been added to the table students. Now, that was all about inserting data into the table. Now, let us see how we can fetch records from the table. Fetching data using MySQL is equally simple and interesting as inserting the data. There are two ways to fetch data. One, we can fetch all the data from the table at once. And to do this, we use select command followed by the name of the table. The asterisk selects all the attributes from the table students like this. And the second way is to fetch only specific data. To fetch particular attributes, we need to replace the asterisk with the name of the attributes we want to fetch followed by the name of the table. So in this case, we want to fetch records of the attributes name and registration number from the table students. And if we look at the output of this SQL query, we can see that Only the records of these two attributes are fetched. Let's make fetching the data more interesting. This is our table in which we have all our data stored. Let's say we want to fetch only those records in which the number of compartments are greater than 0. Can you guess which method will you use to fetch the data in such a case where we have some condition? Well, we won't be able to fetch the data using any of the above methods which we discussed earlier. So what we will do is we will make slight modifications to our existing SQL query. First, we will write an SQL query to fetch all the records like this. Then we will add a clause where followed by the condition that the compartment should be more than 0. A clause applies a filter on our existing SQL query based on the condition provided. Let's check the output. We can see two students whose compartments are 1. Apart from the greater than operator in our SQL query, we can use other operators like equal to, not equal to, less than equal to, greater than equal to get the desired results. But the syntax should be the attribute name then operator followed by the value. We can even combine two conditions using and or operators. The syntax is simple. We will enter our first condition followed by either and or operator, which is followed by the second condition. This SQL query comes handy when we have a lot of data and are looking for some particular record. Next, we have another clause, order by, using which we can fetch the records in either ascending or descending order. Here, we have this query in which we have used the order by clause. This is followed by the name of the attribute where we want to fetch the records. And the attribute name is followed by ASC, meaning in ascending order. So, this SQL query will display the records in the ascending order of student names. Let us confirm by running this query. Here we go. We can see the names of the students in the ascending order. Suppose while inserting a record, we made a typo in one of the entries. So using an SQL query, we can update any record we want to. To do this, we use the update command followed by the name of the table. Then we use set to assign a new set of values to the attributes for which we want to update the information. Here, for understanding purposes, we are taking the attribute as registration number and compartment. So far, this part of the query only tells us what information needs to be updated, but it does not tell us for which record we need to update this information. So, in our SQL query, we use the where clause and specify only that record for which we want to update the value. We have taken the record as serial number 2. This means only for this particular record, the value of registration number and number of compartment will be updated. Note that while updating records in a table, the where clause plays an important role. If we miss this clause, it will then update all the records of the table. So, to summarize, the syntax is update table underscore name, set, then comma, separating the attribute names that we wish to update, equal to new updated values, followed by any valid where clause. Let us look at the output and see if we have been able to update the record. We can see that for the second record, the registration number has become 123010 and also the compartment has changed to 3. And lastly, we will see how we can delete any record from a table. Let's say we want to delete the record serial number 2. To do this, we will enter delete from followed by the table name, that is students, which is followed by where clause like this. This will delete only the record with serial number 2. Let's run the query and we can see that we have been able to delete the record serial number equal to 2. Again, note that the use of where clause is important because if it is not used, the query will delete all the records from the table. Hope now you have understood how to fetch, insert, update and delete records from a table. I would recommend you to add more entries to the table students and run the queries on your own as discussed in the video. Try to use a combination of various queries using and or operators and observe the output. Up next is an exercise. Make sure you create the database and table as mentioned in the exercise as we will use the same database and table later in our training.